Hi, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Conscious Grief series. I am really excited to be here today with Marian Silverman. Marian is a pet loss counselor. She's also a licensed marriage and family therapist. And in the past, you're a school psychologist. You're also an author. And today we're really going to speak about pet loss. So welcome, Marian.
Thank you, Tara. It's a pleasure to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity to share something that's very close to my heart and very important and often marginalized.
Right, exactly. So I know that this is going to really be very, very helpful for the people who choose to watch this interview. And you are the first person that I've really met who's specifically a pet loss counselor. So, how did you move into this specific area of counseling?
Uh, I was licensed as a marriage and family therapist, and I was a school psychologist, and I had been doing family counseling for years. And I retired, and my retirement present to myself was a golden retriever puppy, Holly Golightly. And we found our way to starting a program at UCLA, the People Animal Connection, PAC, which is still going. I think after the pandemic, they may have reinstated it. And we started volunteering, myself and my dog. I thought she was a good therapist, which she was. Gradually, I became a consultant for neuropsychiatrics and began designing a program. And in doing so, I was training the teams, which is the human animal team. Of course, you train the human, you don't train the dog. You train the human to keep the dog appropriate in the hospital. And what happened was, after a number of years, 9 years, some of the dogs began dying, as they do. And because I had trained them or trained their human and worked with them, I found myself counseling the people as to how to deal with letting them go, whether they were ill or whether they had already died. And it just happened that I was involved and I knew those dogs and I knew those people. So I began doing that. And then my dog died, Holly Golightly, and she was my soulmate. And there was nobody to help me. And I had to do the grief by myself. And I began to realize that this pet loss area has been marginalized in our culture and that there was a need for that area to be recognized as devastating as it is for so many people. So that it just kind of evolved. I found my own recovery by helping others with theirs. I found that was the most useful thing I could have done. Um, so it was just the process, but it came as many grief counselors in all areas, yourself, I'm sure, included, from our own grief experience, because then we pay it forward. And you can't do it unless you've been there.
Yes,
Unless you've been there. You can say, I know how you feel, but you really don't unless you felt it. So that was the beginning. And that's been 20 years.
okay.
Yeah.
I was wondering about, I don't know whether people ask you this question, but how would you say that pet grief is different from human grief?
It is different. And one of the reasons it's different is because of the level of bonding that we do with our animals. And unless it was a child that died, maybe it's more akin to that kind of grief. But because it's so marginalized in our culture, many of the people I've worked with, many have said, this was worse than the death of my parents. And I personally experienced that too. And I began to wonder, why is the human-animal bond so powerful that it supersedes other losses that we can let go? And yes, we grieve, and yes, it's awful, but the death of an animal has had people completely devastated. Some of them suicidal, some of them, I can't live without this cat or this dog. And I needed to understand that, so I did a lot of reading on the human-animal bond. And this is what I can share, why this is so profound a loss. First of all, and this is obvious, the pet becomes our child. We feed them, we take them to the doctor, we take care of them, we put a sweater on them if it's cold out. They become our child. So there is the parent-child. But most people recognize that. The second part of the equation is, because this animal looks after us, watches us, almost guards us, they become a parent. And they don't just become the parent we had, which might not have been so perfect. They become the idealized parent that we wish we had had, and that most of us never got, because they accept us unconditionally. Whether we look horrible, whether we're sick, whether we're stupid, that dog and that cat, they don't care. So they become the idealized parent. So now we have the pet as child and the pet as parent. That's pretty powerful. But the third part of the equation was the one that I needed to learn about, and I hadn't realized it until I did some reading and some studies. The third part is, okay, so you're walking down the street with your dog, and someone says, "What a cute dog. He's so handsome." And you say,
"Thank you so much."
Yeah, there it is. And there it is. It's the identity. And if your dog makes a mistake or is naughty, you're embarrassed. And if your dog does well, you're proud. And so it becomes self-identity. And that's very powerful. When the dog dies, it feels as if we've lost a part of our own identity, a part of ourself. And that's different unless we've strongly bonded with someone at that level. 24/7, we don't usually spend with humans, but we do with our animals. So the bond is much deeper. And that loss of self has made many people feel that this was a catastrophic loss. And that's what I have found doing this work, that it's greater, certainly than the death of my parents. And most people that I've worked with have been embarrassed to say that, because somehow they think it minimizes that this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me in my life. People have said, this is the worst pain. I can't imagine it. So it becomes a different kind of grief. And then there's this. In doing the grieving, if people are willing to do it, it's an opportunity to heal those other losses that we didn't really work on, that we bypassed. So it brings up, for many people, it brings up all the losses in their lives, and some of them are really in tremendous pain. So yes, I think it is terribly important for us to acknowledge that our animals, our pets, deserve the acknowledgement that this is a major loss, a profound loss. And that's the first thing I tell clients, because they always want to say, oh, it was only a cat, it was only a rabbit. It never was only, it was everything. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes a lot of sense.
And then the other thing I didn't mention is in the mourning, in the grieving and the mourning, we're often mourning not just ourselves, but who we were as a child, because we nurtured this animal as if it were our child. And this is psychological. It becomes the child that we were. So the death of that animal has so many facets of loss that it hits people like a ton of bricks. Yeah. And that's why I continue to want to do this work.
And so if somebody, as we know somebody who's just recently lost their dog, and we were talking about that before this conversation. So for people who are in that position now, look, who've just suffered a loss of a pet, do you have any initial pieces of advice to get them through those first few days and weeks?
Well, I can tell you what I do with the people I work with when it's recent and what I call the acute phase, because many of them behave and feel as if they've been hit by a truck. And so I use that metaphor. You were hit by a truck, and if you were lying in the road and picked up, you'd be brought to a hospital to recover. So what we want to offer initially is care and nurturing before we get to the reframing the process. I always, the long range goal is to reframe what feels like tragedy to opportunity, an opportunity to deal with things we haven't been willing to deal, an opportunity to become more whole, to recover. But initially, if you've been hit by a truck, you don't want any philosophy about reframing anything. You want a Band-Aid. And so that's what I usually initially say, this is the time to nurture yourself. So that means you find a way to sleep. If you have to get your doctor to prescribe something for sleep, you need it. You find a way to eat healthy. You exercise, you go for a walk by the shore. You do things to care for yourself before you start thinking about all of the joy that you received from that animal and all of the pain. That comes in the second phase. But the acute phase is, now is the time to take care of you because you were hit by a truck. And the other thing I always add is, if you were lying in the hospital and your legs were up in traction because you were hit by a truck, you wouldn't let anyone into that hospital room who didn't come bringing flowers. And that's another metaphor. So you want to stay away from toxic people who don't get it and who say, get another one, get over it. It was only a cat. It was only a dog. So you want to stay away from that. And there's a whole reason why they do that, which is a separate chapter. But initially, it's all about self-care. And that's the first phase. And then I suggest, and they can do this right away, start writing the gratitude journal. And you know how powerful that is. And there's research about when you're expressing gratitudes, it's an antidote to feeling angry, hurt, frightened, devastated. It's an antidote. So I always start them off. Thank you for is the sentence I use. And I have them do it longhand, not on the computer, because longhand is more kinesthetic. It goes from here to the hand, and you get it out of the body so you don't get sick.
Yes.
Start writing, thank you for, finish the sentence, write a whole page. Thank you for, thank you for. I'm giving away my whole first session. Thank you for, yeah, it's true. I'm happy to do it. It's in my book. The thank yous, and you keep that, and you can do 15 minutes a night or a half hour, and that's your grief. That's the beginning of your grief process, is the gratitude. And the other thing is, not the first week, maybe the second or third, is to set up a ceremony, something, a ritual, where you have only those people that support your struggle, that understand it, and you reminisce about the pet that was lost, and you light a candle, and you share photos, and you tell the funniest stories. But that comes not initially. And I call that the ritual. Um, and that's important in humans, always have funerals. That's why we do. And it's not so much closure, it's just a way of gathering all the positive energies that you can. And the other thing I suggest is setting up a sacred space. And that means you find a table or an end table. I have a whole table that's Holly's table. And you put their collar, their favorite toy, pictures, something of importance to that animal in that space so that their energy is being held in that space. And then the person can go to that table and be with them on some level because all of their things are there, not scattered all over the house, but in one place. So those are the initial. I mean, I could go on and on, but that's the beginning. You begin with to take care of yourself. And I like that they hit by a truck. Some people say to me, "How did you know?" How did you know that's how I feel?
Yeah.
They don't say it out loud.
Mm-hmm. I like what you were sharing about the writing, you know, really using a pen and your hand as opposed to typing, and how that can really, you know, has a much more powerful effect for us to sort of detox, if you like, emotions. So, you know, like maybe you could talk a little bit more about writing as a tool
Yeah,
for.
it's a great tool, and I use it at every stage, from the beginning to people that I've been seeing, people in a group that have been there from before the pandemic, and we're still doing writing exercises. But in the beginning, it's gratitude journals, and why it's so powerful is it gets it out of your body and onto the page, because otherwise we hold on to it and we get sick. So writing is a very powerful tool. And I started writing to get through the death of Holly Golightly. And I didn't have a pet counselor. I just started writing almost as survival. I wrote every night and ended up White Rose, Stories of Love, Loss, and a Dog Named Holly. It's on Amazon. I didn't know when I started that it was going to end up, well, it ended up about me. That's the interesting part. I don't want to forget to mention. You begin writing about the pet and all the wonderful, joyous. We begin with joyous experiences, and then when you're ready, you write about the pain, and you end up writing about yourself invariably. You keep it going because ultimately it's about us and how we respond and what. Who am I without this dog? That's one of the questions. Who am I without this pet? And what does this pet love about me? So those are things we can write. I also have people write a letter to the animal, telling them how you feel, how you miss them, and then having a letter from the animal to you, telling you they're fine, they're okay. And it's amazing that comes out just like that. But again, this is down the road. This is part of the process. And I'm sure other pet loss counselors may have different techniques, but these are the ones I found to be the most valuable. Writing. And you end up writing about yourself and you begin learning about yourself. I mean, it's a meditation because you find out about how deeply you love the capacity for feeling. I make this a very positive experience, Tara.
Yeah.
And people have said to me, don't you get burned out doing, the death of animals? And I feel just the opposite. I feel it actually strengthens my ability to understand life and love and loss. It's just, it's life-changing and it's positive. Because one of the things that I do is I stop using the word grief. I did that about 2 years ago. I know we still talk grief, but when I'm working with a client, I talk about changing that word, bereavement and grief and mourning, because you're not going to wear black the rest of your life. Changing it to honoring and remembering, that's a whole different feeling. This is a way of honoring and remembering. So that's what I present, that we're going to reframe this from tragedy to opportunity, so that we end up remembering and honoring. And why would we want to forget them? Why would we want to get over it? You always want to remember anyone you loved. So,
Yes, quite right. I love that. I really do. And while you were speaking, I was thinking to ask you the question of of what you think the purpose of pets are to us human beings.
well, they give us the opportunity to find out who we are and what we're capable, the amount of caring and loving that we're capable of receiving and giving, because many people have said to me, I never loved anybody the way I love this dog or this cat, and nobody ever loved me the way I'm receiving. And what I say to them is, you always had the capacity. It was always in you, but you didn't have permission because the parents we got didn't always present that opportunity that the animal presents. It's an open slate. There's no, they don't judge us.
Yeah.
They really don't. They don't judge us, and they forgive us. And so it's an opportunity to learn how to forgive ourselves and stop judging ourselves. It's an opportunity for compassion. It's profound. I love doing this.
It's so profound because it's ultimately, from what you're sharing, it's like the ultimate sort of spiritual connection and spiritual journey to have that relationship with an animal, which you may not get with another human being.
Usually, I mean, if you're very lucky, but usually not, because we have all these barriers and restrictions that we've set up culturally in our society that don't allow us to be really who we are. But when we're alone with that little pussycat sitting in your lap, which I have right now, there's nothing wrong with me. There's no judgment. I mean, he just loves me for who I am, and that's hard to find. So yeah, this is doing the counseling has coordinated for me my love of animals and my interest in helping people. I put it together, and that was amazing. I didn't expect to find that, especially after retirement.
Yeah, exactly. How amazing.
Big surprise.
Yes.
Yeah. You never know what's coming, Tara.
I know. It's like you've never been retired. That's by the sound. You're never going
No, no. If I shifted out of, I left LA Unified, and it was very toxic when I left. And it wasn't about children; it was about programs and money. And I left, and I found a whole new world, animal based. And then from there, I've just continued it. So it's really been the best time of my life. That's amazing for me to be saying at this stage of the game. Yeah. But doing what you love, doing what you have a passion to do, finding that is really it's amazing and it's important, and I'm very grateful. So every session that I do, whether it's a group or workshop or an individual, begins with gratitudes. We give our gratitudes for this time together as we experience beginnings and endings and loving and forgiveness toward ourselves and others. That's always my opening prayer.
That's beautiful. Now, just so for people who are listening, because you are based in Los Angeles still,
Yes.
And so I know that I remember you're in Culver City.
Yes, but I'm not doing in person since the pandemic. I've been doing Zoom private sessions.
Okay, great. So wherever you are, more or less, you can work with Marian, which is great to know. And
And people can find me through the website yourpetloss.com.
yeah,
There's
we'll have a link to that. Don't
oh,
worry, underneath
okay.
here. So that will be easy for people to connect with you. But we have a couple more questions. I have a couple more questions for you. So you
Okay.
did, you have talked a little bit, you said about the gifts, the hidden gifts in
Mhm.
grieving pets. And some people may find that difficult to understand.
Very, very. I can tell you that the first time I used the expression hidden gift was in a group. And one woman, I'll never forget it, and this is 15 years ago, she said, "You mean something good can come of this?" And we all laughed. I said, "Yes." And it was that woman who had been grieving for, she adopted dogs that had handicaps. So she had a three-legged dog, and then she had a one-eyed chow, and she grieved over the death of the chow. And that's when she came to me. And she continued to adopt dogs that had a missing limb and we thought, oh, how wonderful. We all applauded that she's taking animals nobody else wants. But underlying that was her hidden gift. And I told her and the others, you will find the hidden gift. You don't know when, but there is a hidden gift, not in the death of your animal, but in the work you're doing, in the honoring, in the searching for meaning in this, in your grief work, actually. You will find that there is a hidden gift, and you might not see it yet. Well, 1 year later, she moved out of LA. She was in Seattle. I get a call on a Sunday morning. I'm not mentioning her name. And she woke me up and she said, "Marian, I found the hidden gift." And I said, "Great, tell me what was it?" I knew all along what she needed to get in touch with. She said, "I was adopting broken animals because I had been broken." And we both cried on the phone because that was something I wanted her to become aware of, but could never say it. The only thing I changed, I said to her, I'll call her Sharon. I said, "Sharon, you were never broken. You thought you were. They treated you as if you were, but you were never broken." She said, "Well, that's something I have to work on. But now I know I don't need to adopt animals that are broken." I said, "You're whole." So that's one of the hidden gifts. For
Wow.
me, doing my own grief work, the hidden gift was very obvious. It was developing more compassion for others and their losses and doing this work. And then someone I worked with last year gave up her career and became a pet loss counselor. I think she got registered. There's something, I don't know about it, but I think she got registered. She did some studying. I did some mentoring with her. And that was her hidden gift because she went through it and now it's a pay it forward. So
Yeah.
you come out of this experience more whole than you were. And that's what I call the hidden gift. And
Mm.
it's different for everyone, but it's very exciting.
It is exciting.
You
Yeah.
know that this is not a tragedy.
Yeah.
People come to me and it's tragic and it's part of life. It's part of the life process. And I tell them, I'll just add this, when you adopt a puppy or a kitten or whatever it is, you need to know from day one that you will say goodbye.
Yeah.
You need to know that. And most people deny any awareness. It's a 6-week-old puppy. I don't want to think about that. But you need to do it because when you do acknowledge that you will say goodbye, because they predecease us usually. We don't die first, they do. So you need to acknowledge it. but not in a, oh, I'm wringing my hands, I'm watching, did he eat today or is he sick? No, in order to say thank you every day. And I use a phrase, thank you, God, whether you do God or whether you do some other force in the universe. Thank you for another day with Holly. When she became ill with cancer, I started saying, thank you for another day, for each day that she lived. And if we do that with a healthy animal, then when the day comes that they leave, and they will, it isn't as devastating because you've appreciated every moment. And that probably is true for all grief, for all those we love, is to thank them every day with the understanding that we don't know. So,
yeah. We don't know. We have to be thankful for every day that we do have with them.
And doing it verbally and consciously, and you're the conscious grief counselor, so you would know this as part of your work. Doing it consciously, I say, and I just have a cat now, Teddy, who's over here somewhere. I say, thank you, Teddy, for another day. And I say it every morning. And I do it consciously because I know there will be a day when he's not here. And will I be devastated? No. Will I be sad? Yes. And they're not the same. Sadness is one thing, but you don't have to go through excruciating pain. So that's the gift of gratitude. But do it. And some people have said, oh, I have this young dog. I don't want to think about his dying. That's negative. It isn't. It's reality. And it gives you the opportunity to appreciate every moment is precious that we have with them. Do you have an animal?
I have a little dog who I know it's sort of like shut him upstairs today because he was really barky. Otherwise, sometimes he appears on my lap in these interviews. But
That's wonderful.
I just literally look at him. He sleeps in my bed every night, and I just think, oh, I just love him so much. And I think I just can't imagine sharing my bed with anybody else, honestly.
And there it is.
Yeah.
And thank you. And thank you for another day.
Yeah.
So that is, if there's nothing else to remember from this interview, it's about the gratitudes and the appreciation while they're here. And I love when I get the opportunity to do anticipatory counseling before the event, because then we get to help them to a peaceful leaving.
Yes,
we get to wonderful. Yeah, rather than in total shock and disarray. Yeah.
Well, that sort of leads me on to my final question, which I like to ask everybody in these interviews. And it really is your own interpretation of how would you define the term conscious grief?
Yeah, and I think I've been touching on it when we talk about awareness and consciously doing the work. It isn't just the death of the animal that's going to give us a sense of completion or wholeness. It's consciously being aware of honoring and remembering, and if you like, grieving consciously and being aware of it and not running away from it, not running away from the pain, I would say, not masking it, which is an impulse we all have, is to distract. I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to, it hurts too much. So I will go in another. But when you stay with it, that's conscious grief, as far as I understand. This is your specialty. But that would be the way I would explain it.
Yeah. No, I absolutely love that.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Staying with the pain, staying with the feelings, staying with it.
Quite absolutely. Yeah.
In a sense, surrendering to this is, I tell people when I first meet with them, this is painful. There's no way that's not going to be painful. It's like surgery. but it does get better.
Yeah.
It does heal.
Yes. Oh, Marian, it's just so lovely to meet you. And like I said, we'll have a link to your work underneath this interview, so people can email you and connect with you. So thank you very, very much for everything that you do.
Thank you.
You help. Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's just an honor to be talking with you. I so appreciate this opportunity.
Oh,
Yeah, because you're doing very similar work.
yeah.
It's
So
all about helping.
it
So
is. And I
thank
love
you, thank you.
you're so welcome. And I love to share about people's work like yourself. So yes, and thank you very much to everybody who's been listening. We hope that you've enjoyed this as much as I've enjoyed being here with Marian. Okay, bye for now.
Bye
Bye.
bye.